Welcome back to Have More Babies. Today we're diving into something really key for kids' health. Vaccinations. We'll be exploring this using insights from Omega Pediatrics. They're a practice really focused on children's health to get a good grasp on it all.
Exactly. Our aim here is to give you a solid, evidence-based view on how childhood vaccines work. We also want to tackle some of the common worries parents often have and really stress why immunization is so important for keeping your child healthy.
Absolutely. When you're navigating parenthood, getting reliable information is just crucial, isn't it? So let's jump in. Why are vaccines considered such a, fundamental part of pediatric care?
Well, at its heart, immunization is about getting the child's immune system ready ahead of time. A vaccine basically introduces something that triggers the body's own defense mechanisms.
Okay.
Think of it like giving the immune system a heads up, kind of preview, so it knows what to do if it meets the real danger later.
That's a helpful way to put it. So, okay, when a child gets a vaccine, what's actually happening inside their body?
Right. So vaccines contain a very small amount of a virus or bacterium, but it's weakened or inactivated. It's not enough to cause the actual disease, but it is enough for the immune system to go, hey, what's this? And recognize it as something foreign.
And that recognition then leads to protection down the line.
That's the idea. The immune system responds by creating these special proteins called antibodies. These antibodies are like specific soldiers trained to fight that particular germ.
Right.
And once they're made, they stick around, providing immunity if you're exposed again. Plus, there's this immune memory component where cells remember the threat for a faster response next time.
Wow, so it's really building up a sophisticated defense. And we're talking about preventing some pretty serious stuff, not just, minor colds.
Oh, absolutely. Promoting vaccination is vital because it shields children from diseases that can be truly devastating, even life-threatening. Things like measles, mumps, rubella grays. You often see the MMR vaccine recommended in the first year.
Yeah.
And then later, things like the HPV vaccine in adolescents, protecting against viruses linked to cancers later in life.
It's clear how that helps the child who gets the vaccine. But you mentioned it has a wider impact, too.
It really does. Vaccination isn't just about the individual child. It helps protect vulnerable people in the community. Think about the elderly or people with weakened immune systems who maybe can't get vaccinated themselves or won't respond as well.
Okay.
By reducing how much a disease is circulating overall, we create a safer environment for everyone.
And that leads into the idea of herd immunity we hear about sometimes. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, herd immunity or community immunity happens when a large enough percentage of a population is immune to a disease. Either they've had the vaccine or maybe they had the illness before.
Right.
This makes it really difficult for the disease to spread because it keeps hitting dead ends, essentially. It protects those who aren't immune because the illness just can't reach them easily.
Like building a protective wall around the vulnerable.
Exactly. The threshold needed varies, though. For something super contagious like measles, you need really high vaccination rates to achieve it.
It makes sense. We're sort of all in it together. Now, despite all the science showing vaccines are safe and work well, we know some parents do have concerns. How do doctors usually handle those conversations?
And it's completely understandable for parents to have questions, even anxieties. Their main focus is their child's safety, and healthcare providers get that. The key is open, honest communication. Pediatricians really aim to provide clear, fact-based information, listen carefully to the parents' specific worries, and address them respectfully.
Okay, let's talk about some of those specific worries. One big one is the fear that vaccines just aren't safe. What does the science say?
Well, the scientific evidence is really overwhelming. Decades of research involving millions and millions of people consistently show that vaccines are incredibly safe. And they're highly effective at preventing these dangerous diseases from spreading. They go through rigorous testing before they're ever approved, and safety monitoring continues constantly, even after they're in use.
What about side effects, though? That's often a point of concern.
It's true, some minor side effects can happen. Things like a low fever, maybe some soreness or redness where the shot was given. These are usually mild, temporary, and actually a sign the immune system is kicking in, learning to protect. Serious side effects are possible, but they are extremely rare. When you weigh the tiny risk of a serious side effect against the very real risk of getting a serious disease, well, the benefits of vaccination heavily outweigh the risks.
That makes sense. Another thing you hear is parents worrying that maybe kids get too many vaccines too close together, that it could overwhelm their immune system. Is there anything to that?
That's another concern researchers have looked into very carefully. and the scientific consensus is clear. A child's immune system is remarkably robust.
Mm-hmm.
It can handle multiple vaccines at once, safely and effectively. Absolutely. Think about it from birth. Babies encounter countless bacteria and viruses just in their everyday environment. Their immune systems deal with that constantly. The challenges from vaccines are just a tiny fraction of what their systems handle naturally every single day. There's just no scientific evidence showing the recommended schedule harms or weakens the immune system.
Okay, that's reassuring. And then there's the one that unfortunately still comes up, the myth linking vaccines to autism.
Yes, and it's so important to be crystal clear on this. Numerous, large-scale, high-quality scientific studies from all over the world have exhaustively looked for a link, and they have definitively found no connection between vaccines and autism. That theory has been thoroughly debunked by the scientific community.
It's crucial to get that message out.
Absolutely. When you're making these important decisions, you have to rely on credible scientific data and the advice of health experts, not misinformation that unfortunately spreads so easily online.
Which really underscores how vital your pediatrician is in this whole process, helping parents sort through it all. How exactly can they help families with vaccine decisions?
Your pediatrician is really your go-to expert here. They have the medical training, they understand the science, they keep up with the latest research on vaccinations. It's so important for parents to feel they can talk openly with their pediatrician, ask any question, voice any concern.
What are some specific things a pediatrician does to help?
Well, first off, they can explain things clearly.
Mhm.
What are the real benefits of getting this vaccine? What protection does it offer? And conversely, what are the risks if your child doesn't get vaccinated? What diseases could they be susceptible to?
Mm-hmm.
They can directly address those worries about safety and effectiveness using the actual scientific evidence.
Having someone knowledgeable to just talk it through with must be huge for parents.
It really is. And with so many vaccines out there, pediatricians guide you on which ones are recommended for your child based on their age, their health, and the standard schedules from groups like the CDC. They help you understand why each vaccine is given when it is.
And they handle the practical stuff too, like keeping track of the schedule.
Exactly. They manage your child's immunization records, help make sure everything is given on time.
Yeah.
They provide that roadmap.
Okay.
And crucially, if that very rare reaction does happen after a vaccine, your pediatrician knows what to do, how to provide care, and what steps to take next.
It sounds like they really are partners in this.
They definitely are. And it goes beyond just giving shots. They often talk to kids as they get older during checkups about why vaccines are important. That helps build a positive view of preventative health early on.
We've talked a lot about kids, but immunization isn't just for childhood, is it?
That's right. It's really a lifelong thing. Delaying or skipping recommended vaccines at any age, well, it just increases your risk of getting sick from preventable diseases. Following that recommended schedule, starting right from the shots given soon after birth, is really key.
And adults need to think about this too.
Yes, absolutely. Adults have recommended schedules too. Sometimes it's booster shots for things you got as a kid, like tetanus, and annual things like the flu shot. Keeping up to date protects you, but it also, again, helps protect the whole community.
Well, back to that community protection idea.
Exactly. Keeping vaccination rates high across all ages helps maintain that herd immunity we talked about. That protects the people who can't be vaccinated for medical reasons. Maybe they have immune problems, or they're too young, or undergoing treatments like chemotherapy.
And these vaccines are usually part of the regular checkups.
Yes, generally. Those routine well-child visits, from when they're newborns all the way through the teen years, they're not just for tracking growth. They're the planned times to give the necessary immunizations according to the recommended schedule.
So we know vaccines are important. What are the actual risks if parents decide to delay them or not get them at all?
Yeah, unfortunately, making the choice to delay or skip vaccines or not follow the schedule, it does put young children at serious risk.
Can you spell out some of those consequences?
Well, the most obvious one is it leaves the child vulnerable. The risk of catching diseases like measles, whooping cough, polio, chickenpox diseases that can have really serious complications, cause long-term health problems, or even be fatal goes way up.
Right.
Especially for infants, some of these diseases are incredibly dangerous. Delaying also means they're unprotected for longer, potentially during outbreaks. It also makes it harder for doctors to keep track of what shots a child has or hasn't had, which can lead to confusion, maybe missed vaccines, or even getting unnecessary repeat doses later.
Okay.
And as we said, it weakens that community protection, that herd immunity, putting others at risk. There could even be social things, like sometimes kids might need to be excluded from school or daycare during an outbreak if they aren't vaccinated.
That makes sense. So for parents who are looking for a pediatrician, someone they can trust with this, what should they look for?
Choosing a pediatrician is a big decision. You definitely want someone who is board certified in pediatrics, and ideally, someone who is clearly knowledgeable about vaccines and advocates for following the recommended schedule based on the science.
What else should parents think about?
Make sure the practice actually carries all the recommended vaccines and keeps up with the current guidelines. Communication is huge. You need someone who explains things well, listens to your concerns patiently, and builds a good rapport.
Right.
And then there are the practical things. Is the office convenient? Are the hours okay? Do they take your insurance? It's also fair to ask if there are any extra fees associated with giving vaccines.
Any other tips?
Maybe check if they're affiliated with a good hospital, just in case of emergencies. And, reading reviews from other parents can sometimes give you a feel for the practice and the doctor's approach.
This has been really thorough, thank you. It feels like the main takeaway is that vaccines are a safe, proven, and really essential tool for protecting our kids from some serious illnesses. And relying on good information from healthcare professionals you trust is just key.
Absolutely. And if you want more detailed information or need to find care to make sure your child is up to date on their immunizations, a great resource is omegapediatrics.com.
Yes, definitely check out omegapediatrics.com for more resources and information. And hey, if you found this conversation helpful, please do give this video a like, subscribe to our channel for more health discussions, and maybe share this with other parents you know who might find it useful.
And maybe something to think about. Considering how connected our communities are, how does one person's decision about vaccination kind of ripple outwards and affect others?
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us today on Have More Babies.
It was my pleasure. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.